Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 2 of Answering Your Questions. Now, before I get started, I just want to reiterate that questions are indeed still open. Yes, so if there's something that you wanted to ask me that you forgot about, or just occurred to you more recently, or some kind of follow-up to something that I have said in this video or the last one or any other one, then I'm still accepting questions, so go for it. But anyway, we are going to be answering some more questions, and we're going to start with HOOVERCollectionfan, who says, I've been watching your vids for over 5 years. No, 5 years now. Grammar's a little bit weird, but I think he's saying he was 12 then, now he's 18, make more Sims 3 videos, 1999, the year I was born. What's MM stand for, Bone? Okay, a little bit confusing message, but MM stands for 2000 in Roman numerals. Look at video 1 for the full explanation for that. And once again, I'm very pleased to hear that you've been watching for over 5 years and you've been watching since you were young. It's a very nice thing to know. And yes, do not worry, more Sims 3 is coming. Okay, next is Mark Tuchinsky, I think that's how you pronounce it, who asks, what kind of a world do you want to be around when you reach 10,000 videos? Hint, hint, I did the math. If you average 2,000 videos every 8 years, then your 10,000th video will be uploaded in 2049. In other words, what kind of world do I hope exists in the year 2049? Well, I'll be 63, so hopefully I'll have good health and I'll be around. So what kind of world do I want to see at that point? That's a really good question. Well, I don't want to give any cliched answers like world peace or anything because, I'm not naive and I know that complete peace in the world is not possible. But there are some things that I hope we can achieve by that point. And a lot of them are just sort of vaguer goals, but I hope that just the amount of human suffering in general has gone down by that point. I hope that there are less people dying from war, less people dying from disease and famine, I hope that more families stay together. I hope that there are more stable social structures in people's immediate lives. I hope that there is a greater stability in politics, whether it be local, national, or international. I hope that peoples and cultures around the world who are threatened with losing what they have find a way to hold on to their people and hold on to their culture. And that includes my people and my culture. I hope that America, by the year 2049, is still a country I would recognize and be proud to live in. I would like to see America still be the #1 dominant country in the world by that time, because I firmly believe that the American values are the best values that we as a species have so far come up with. So I hope that we remain #1. Although I hope that other countries thrive and prosper as well in peace. So those are some basic things. I also hope that we have some technological advancements that make our lives a lot easier and more satisfying. I hope that there is more space exploration and even colonization that I touched on last time with the Mars question. I hope that less people feel like they are just cast aside and ignored. I hope that everyone is able to find some form of community in some way. And, I hope that it is a world where I don't have to fear the future, because I know that we're headed in the right way. Because I don't feel that now, and I hope that we can change things before things get an awful lot worse. So, I think that pretty much answers the question. So next up is a 055555, who asks, if you could live anywhere besides where you are, where would it be? Well, I don't think I would want to leave America. I think I'd want to remain in my country, but I would be very happy to try living in other parts of the country. And I've thought about this. There are certain regions and areas that just seem like they would be nice to live in. For one, I don't know. I've always had a thing for the mountains of North Carolina. I was there once. It's very beautiful. I know people who live there. It is very beautiful, and it seems like a good place to live. I mean, North Carolina is kind of going in a bit of an unfortunate direction, I think, possibly, but by and large, it's still a pretty sensible state as compared to many here in the Northeast. So I wouldn't mind living in North Carolina if I could have a good job, because from what I have seen, the jobs pay less, but the standard of living is just as high as in Southeast Pennsylvania, in the nice parts of the state anyway. So, I don't know, maybe not. I also wouldn't mind, and this might seem a little crazy, but I wouldn't mind living in New Jersey, just right over the river, just because there's just something about New Jersey I like a lot. It just feels more homely than a lot of Pennsylvania does, which might seem like a contradiction, but just like the layout of the towns there, and the fact that there's like these little towns, but you're also very close to major cities, and it would be really nice to live on the shore. I love the beach. I don't get to go that often anymore, but I love the beach and I love the shore, and it would be cool to live there. So if only they weren't so corrupt and taxed so much, I might consider New Jersey as a place to live. But I was thinking about this, and I actually think Missouri would be a good state for me. Number one, I was born in Illinois, neighboring state, and it would be very fun to return to the Midwest, but Illinois is a basket case right now. I've been to Missouri twice, once for a wedding and once for a funeral. True story. And it's a very nice, it's just pleasant. It's just a very pleasant state. Once you get out of like the crime and the sprawl of St. Louis, and you get out into the country, it's just very peaceful. I think there's this notion that like the Midwest is flat, but Missouri is not flat. There's all these rolling little choppy hills, kind of like, if you guys remember my City Skyline City Optomy and how the whole city was made up of choppy little hills, it's kind of like that. That's the terrain of at least that part of Missouri. And I remember walking around the town of Hannibal, Missouri, which is where Mark Twain grew up, right there on the Mississippi River, and thinking what a nice and peaceful place it was, and how I wouldn't mind living there, just because I'm not so sure that I want the rat race. I think I'd rather just relax, take it easy, have a sense of community around me, and not have to constantly worry all the time about crazy people and crazy stuff that you'll see here in the Northeast. And also, I'd really like to try Alaska. I don't mind the cold, and also much of Alaska isn't as bad as people think. North Dakota is actually colder than most of Alaska, apart from, of course, the far north of Alaska. But Anchorage is pretty mild. Even a lot of the inland places, as long as you don't go too far in, are kind of mild. They're moderated by the Pacific Ocean. But I just think that would be a very beautiful place. And, kind of like what I said about Mars, anyone who lives in Alaska, especially if they don't live in one of the major cities, they have to be relatively tough, relatively competent people. So that's why Alaska is one of the most common sense places in America, and that attracts me to it. I definitely would like to try Alaska. It's far away from other places, but you can still travel. It's on the same continent. And even if I don't move to Alaska, I'd love to drive the Alaska Highway. I looked it up. To drive from my house to Anchorage, which is possible, would take 80 hours on the road. I'd be willing to do that. Of course, it would take like 2 weeks to get there and then 2 weeks to get back. But one of these days, I'd love to do it. See Alaska, see the Yukon, the rural parts of Canada, which, to be fair, is most of Canada. And wouldn't that just be nice? But yeah, you know what? I feel I should at least add one international destination to this list of places, and it's somewhere that you might not expect. But I would actually be very curious to try out life in Poland. Yes, Poland, a country in Eastern Europe where I have no family and no connection and no heritage. And the reason I picked Poland is because I think of all the European countries at this present time, they are the most sensible. They're the most proud. They're the most in touch with who they are and their history. And they are the one European country that really is standing up for themselves right now. So I would love to be around such proud people. And you know what? The Poles have struggled much in their life. Things haven't gone well for them, just like things really haven't gone well for me at times. They had threats from the Germans in the west and the Russians in the east. They lost their country for many centuries. In the 17th and 18th and 19th century, sometime around then, their country was partitioned, divided between the German Empire and the Russian Empire. It was reborn after World War I, just to be invaded again in World War II. Was under the boot of communism for 40 years or more, and now finally has the chance to be free. And unlike a lot of Western European countries, they don't take their freedom for granted, and they are not giving it away as readily as England and Germany and Sweden are. 3 countries where I do have roots and heritage, but I would not be willing to move to any of those 3 countries right now. So if I had to leave America, I would be willing to try out Poland. And yes, Poland can into space. Okay, we move on to ZL Entertainment, who asks, when you were younger, what did you want to be when you grew up? How many cups of sugar does it take to get to the moon? What advice would you give to people who want to start and or grow a YouTube channel? In Cat Dog, if the dog was hacking up the cat's fur balls, what happens when the dog needs to use a fire hydrant? If the universe really were a simulation, would that be a comforting thought to you, a scary thought, or the mix of the two? Who is your female and male celebrity crushes, if you have any? Do you know the Muffin Man? So, a good range of questions, and it might fill up the rest of the time on this video, which is fine. So the first question in that long list is, what did I want to be when I grew up? Well, the earliest thing that I can remember is when I was 5 years old, I really wanted to be a house builder. And there's a reason for that, I think. At that time, my parents had decided to buy a brand new house in a nearby town. This was still in Illinois, by the way, and the houses were all brand new in that neighborhood and all custom built. So we would go to the neighborhood, and there would be all these houses under construction, and I don't know how we were allowed to do this, but my dad took me into a lot of these under construction houses, and we walked around through all these like bare, wooden structures that were unfilled in, and the walls weren't put up yet, and you could look up and down through the gaps in the floor and all that. Thinking back on it, I have no idea how we were allowed to go in there, but I just remember being fascinated by that, and then I wanted to be a house builder. I wanted to build houses and create buildings. And, when you think about it, a quarter century later, when you look at the kind of games I play, whether it be Minecraft or City Skylines or The Sims, a lot of that 5-year-old dream is being expressed in how I play those games, because I am a builder. That is how I am known when I play Minecraft. Some people focus on the exploration of Minecraft, some people focus on the combat, some people focus on the tech from the mod packs and things like that. Me, I like to build. That's my favorite thing. And you see my cities and City Skylines. I like to build cities. I like to build houses in The Sims. And even Civ, you could say you're building an empire. So that whole building mentality is something that is deep within me. So that's what I wanted to be at the age of 5. And then by about the age of 10, I wanted to be a rock star. And in some ways, that dream has never died. I don't know exactly what cued that on, but there's a very good scene, or a very good possibility that it was the Johnny B. Good scene from Back to the Future. There's Marty, and he's never been given the chance to play in front of people with his guitar. So he's back in 1955. He's in front of all these people at this dance. The other guitar player is injured. He cut his hand. So Marty has to fill in for the guitar. And even though he knows he has to go and get back to the future, they say, come on, man, let's do one more song. So he plays Johnny B. Good, and he goes absolutely nuts. He just loses himself in the music and in the passion, and it's just the most awesome thing to see. Back to the Future is my favorite movie, by the way. I would probably confirm, and I could talk about how good that movie is for, hours and hours, but one of the many great things about that movie is that whole resolution of Marty, who doesn't think he's cut out for music, doesn't know if he can do it, and now he's playing in front of all those people, and he's just having the best time. And I used to jump around the living room playing the air guitar along to Marty, and so I wanted to be a rock star, and in many ways I still do. A little bit later on, I had other ideas. In my teens, I wanted to be a computer programmer. I know now that I don't have the concentration or the kind of mindset. I don't have a programmer mindset, Like I said, when I played Minecraft, I built. I didn't focus on the tech. The tech always confused me. So, I'm a good big picture kind of person. I can think of an idea for a game. I can think of the plot for the game and a lot of the things I want to be in it and the basic structure of how I want the game to go and certain things I want to see happen. But the nitty-gritty coding details is not something I've ever had a good hold on, so I'm glad I didn't pursue that. I also wanted to be a professional writer when I was young, and that's something that's still possible for me because I am a very good writer. I also wanted to be a music teacher for a while, and I also had side dreams and goals, but then we're getting sort of into my adult life, so that's a different subject. But yeah, those are the things I wanted to be when I was growing up. Okay, how many cups of sugar does it take to get to the moon? Okay, I kind of cheated on this. I looked it up. I thought it would be like thousands upon thousands, but really, the amount of energy contained in about 1,000 bags of sugar, or cups, rather, that's all the energy that you need to get to the moon from the Earth. Of course, it's very obviously inefficient, and it's filthy as all hell, and dirty, and it would be just a terrible idea, but it's possible, if you really wanted to. Okay, let's see. What advice would you be to people who want to start and or grow a YouTube channel? Well, first of all, I just want to point out that I'm probably not the best person to be giving advice on that. I mean, just look at the amount of views I have on any given videos. But, you know, if I was to give advice based on what I've seen of people who are successful, even moderately successful, you have to, number one, your production values have to be at least competent, you know? This whole one continuous press record until the video's done and then press stop like I like to do, that's no good in 2017. That doesn't cut it anymore. So that's not what you should be doing. You have to have snappy production, and you have to keep the episode moving. You can't have long dead times. You can't let things breathe. You have to be a little bit snappy, but without being obnoxious about it. You have to have a good balance. And I actually have a channel example that I uncovered recently who has very similar content to me. It's a person who, on the surface, you would not think I would like this guy, but I actually do, because his videos are entertaining. They move fast, but they also have plenty of content in them. They're not too long, not too short. And he's getting close to 200,000 subscribers. His name is, let's see if I can get this right, Drew Durnil, I think. Just try typing that in. He is a guy who does mostly Civ, EU games, Hearts of Iron, you know, the same kind of strategy games that I've been known to play. And he, to me, strikes the perfect balance between good content where you know, it's worthwhile to watch without it being too fast or too obnoxious. And he's funny too, like just genuinely amusing guy, but he doesn't push it too hard. I mean, maybe a little at times, but I can forgive him. So yeah, check out Drew Durnil and emulate his style. That's my best advice, because he, in my mind, strikes the right balance, because I can't stand most of these YouTube guys these days. They just piss me off. They're just so obnoxious. But this guy's okay. I'll give him a pass. In Cat Dog, if the dog was hacking up the cat's fur balls, what would happen when the dog would need to use the fire hydrant? Well, given the logic of what was just presented, the dog would raise the cat's front paw, and pee would come out of the cat's mouth. Yeah, that's what would happen. Okay. So, if the universe were really a simulation, would that be a comforting to me, a scary thought, or a mix of the two? Well, the interesting thing about that is, what would it really change? You know, in terms of my life, your life, anyone's daily life, to know that the universe was a simulation. I mean, that doesn't mean that the rules of what's happening around us is different. It just means the nature of it is understood a little bit better. You might say that somebody could turn off the simulation, but then again, somebody, you know, Mother Nature could blow up the sun, could send a rogue black hole or a gamma ray burst at us. So, you know, it's not any more dangerous, so to say. And it would also mean that there was a bigger universe outside of our simulated universe where the rules are, you know, that universe would be indecipherable to us any more than a character in 8-bit simulation on a computer would understand our world. So it would be very fascinating. And it would be okay, I think. I don't know if it would really comfort me, but it wouldn't really scare me either, because the mysteries of the universe are so complex as it is. If we found out we were a simulation in an even more complex universe, that would just be a humbling thing, because we will know that how much we don't know and how much we can't know because of our limited monkey brains that we have in our heads. Okay. Who's your female and male celebrity crushes, if you have any? Well, I don't really have any currently, but when I was a bit younger, I had a huge crush on Summer Glau. Oh yes, I did. She was in Firefly, and she was in that Terminator TV show, and I was really into her. She just has that toughness, but also is very attractive in my mind. At least at the time. Maybe I'd still find her attractive. I really haven't thought about her in quite a long time, but yeah, I used to be into her. As for males, well, I'm not gay, but I do have to admit that I did kind of have a man crush on Ewan McGregor when I was younger. And no, Louis C.K., I thought of that first. I thought of that before you ever said anything about it, so don't accuse me of copying you, Louis C.K. I thought of it first. And it turns out Louis is kind of a skeevy guy anyway. But, yeah, Ewan McGregor, he's a hunk. So, what can I say? If I think you're allowed to have one male crush if you want, and that's the one that I had. And finally, do you know the Muffin Man? That's a Shrek reference, isn't it? Yes, the Muffin Man on Muffin Lane. Well, yes, I do know the Muffin Man, because I know all things food related, because food is wonderful. Well, I believe that is probably enough for video 2. I'm having a lot of fun doing this. I love talking, if you haven't noticed. And I love having something to talk about that is suggested externally by other people. So I want to say thank you for submitting these questions. And like I said, the questions are still open if you want to submit more. There's still more to go. So join us for part 3 very soon.